3-2 Brew, we are going to be doing our week 1 recap of Goblins. I will apologize at the front here. This is going to be out later than I would like to, so probably come out on Tuesday. We normally want to release these on Sundays. This past weekend, I had a bit of a family emergency. My wife had both a single car accident and a trip to the hospital from a skiing accident. Thankfully, she's okay, but I spent the whole weekend from Friday onwards making sure she was okay. This means that, I got less testing in than I would have liked to. She was gone for pretty much the whole week, so I did get a lot of testing in, but I was going to do some more testing on Friday, and then I actually had a tournament that I was supposed to go to, which is a Premodern monthly for the dress crew puts on, which I was going to run a Goblins list during. So sadly, we're missing some data points here, and it'll be a little bit until I get some IRL data points, but I just want to open up with and say this deck is crushing my soul. So let's get into it. I ended up, I believe, capping off a total of 25 matches. I did about 10 with version 1.1, version 1.2, and then I have a version 1.3 I'm still playing through, which I have, I believe, 5 matches in. So this is version 1.1 we're looking at right now. This is a green-red version. Major things I added here was I added a Goblin Pyromancer. I believe I added a Goblin King as well. Ancient Tombs, and just kind of tinkered around with it a bit. Put the Goblin Tinker in the sideboard instead of in the main board. This deck just, overall didn't feel great. My play/draw split was a 5-5, so I was equal between plays and draws. My match record was 3-7, and my game record was 8-16. I did take some notes on some of these as a final thought. The mana did not feel correct on this at all. Ancient Tomb did not feel impactful enough for what it did in the main board. The Pyromancer also felt impactful. That might be a skill/line issue, like not picking the correct lines, but it just didn't get where I needed it to get to. There was also some stupid misplays, and I didn't have any understanding potentially for boards. There was just a little bit too much mindless play overall, but still, it was incredibly disheartening. I just felt like I couldn't win with this deck. The overall, the pros that came out of this 1.1 testing was that I forced myself now to have a sideboard guide, or at least the makings of a sideboard guide for every single version I do. And I also reevaluated the lands in the next version. But I overall felt gutted. Truly, I remember texting my friend and being like, what have I signed up for? Can I just not play Goblins? Is this deck not for me? I when I play this deck, I feel disheartened. And it's kind of insane to me because I love Goblins. Goblins is fantastic. This is a super, super cool tribe. I enjoy playing with them. I love playing tribal in general. So overall, I was just generally bummed on that aspect and was kind of downtrodden. I had listened to the Will Hurst podcast. I believe it was Will Hurst who had the interview with someone who had won with Red Black Goblins. So I was pretty high on Red Black Goblins and was like, you know what? Let me give it a dive. I want to check it out. I'm interested to see how Red Black Goblins runs. So that ended up being my version 1.2 was Red Black Goblins. For this one, I added 2 Tinker into the main board. I ended up cutting the Goblin Pyromancer, and I cut down on a Fanatic here. I believe even maybe a Pile Driver. Brought some Cabal Therapies main board. I went up to 24 lands, and this ended up being a very big blessing, which I'll talk about, and I'm very happy with currently in the deck. But I had a really fun sideboard set up. There was a lot going on here, and I really, really enjoyed it. I played another 10 matches with this. I went 6-4 for play versus draw, so I was on the play slightly more than the draw. I did end up with a 6-4 match record, which I'll get into, and my game record was a 14-10. The match record was heavily skewed by just me. I was just testing in the MTGO, just tossing up pre-modern testing - goblins, just to let people know. Some people hate playtesting against goblins, and obviously I'm jamming 8 matches a day collecting data points and trying to get better. So I ended up running against 4 blue-green madness matchups, and I just felt this deck feels insane against them. The green-red version does as well. This deck is just nuts against them. So I believe that's a bit skewed because of it. But I did love the versatility in the sideboard with black. I think it fits my play extremely well. Draw News Crusade is a really fun card to cast in general. Gloom is a fantastic card in the format currently. Perish is cracked. This eats way more decks than people really realize. As I've learned through testing both this and my S'mores deck, Perish hits like all of the rock. Perish hits like pretty much the entirety of whatchamacallit as well. I'm blanking on it. It hits Terravores and a lot of those Terrageddon decks. It just hits a lot of things, and it feels good. Like, Perish feels very, very good in the meta right now. Living Death as well. I never actually got to pop one of these off. I just never hit that board state or mana state, but it felt really good having the threat and the ability to block and know that it's going to come back at some point. So good. Overall, I think that just the black color fits me slightly better as a player than it does the green. The major change that I brought forward into version 1.3 was the mana base. So I went to 5+ colorless lands, and I went to 5 colorless lands down from 6, and I also added an additional land up to 24. So I added here a Shadowblood Ridge, and the other one I added a Mossfire Valley. The 23 versus 24 lands feels like, for some godforsaken reason, feels like the world of difference. Being able to consistently hit your land drops is just so good. Really, really, really cracked. I very much enjoy 24 lands. I think that Goblins needs 24 lands, like just flat out. It's very weird because this is an aggro deck, but at the same time, it's really not an aggro deck in a sense, because like it kind of can fit control. I decided on a 3-port 2 wasteland split after hearing the gentleman talk about the red-black, his mindset with red-black Goblins. I do think you could do like 3 wasteland 2-port if you wanted or something. You could even do 4-port 1 wasteland. But I do love the versatility of Wasteland. Wasteland's one of my favorite cards. I just think it's a very well-designed Magic the Gathering card, and I like to be able to pick off non-basics and punish greedy plants. And also hit man lands. So I think that the 3-2 split between Port and Wasteland is just fantastic. The 24 lands felt amazing. It felt super fun, this entire deck. It's just fun playing black with Goblins. I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. Like, it's a lot of fun to be able to slam a Living Death, or like threaten to slam a Living Death, stuff like that. The land / creature ratios, I'm up to 34 creatures. I've been 34 here, but I think 34 is the correct number in this deck. In version 1.3, I will note that I did have the craziest variance where I slammed 3 straight ringleaders and only hit 1 creature. This was very early. This was like turn 3 and turn 4 or something stupid like that. Maybe it was turn 2 through 4. I was dropping, I had 2 lackeys going and was just dropping out ringleaders. I was drawing them. So yeah, I had incredible variance, terrible variance with that, but it was kind of amazing to see. But the major con with this red-black version is that it just folds to Engineered Plague. And every single, like, it can't beat a black deck, is how it feels. Like, you can't beat a deck with black. You're going to get absolutely diced up by Engineered Plague, and like your goose is cooked, sadly. So I honestly, like, after all those matches, and I was just consistently losing to decks that like I shouldn't lose to on those 6 and 4s. The 4 losses like were decks that I would be able to at least hang with the green. I realized that if you're in a meta that is pretty heavy on Engineered Plague, and honestly, this meta online is, like, people do pack their Engineered Plagues because Goblins is popular. Elves is relatively approachable due to, like, fix renting and stuff like that. I just had to give up on red-black Goblins. This deck is fun. I'm not ever going to discourage anyone from playing it. It's powerful. You know, if you play it properly and you catch a meta with their pants down on a certain day, or your local meta just doesn't respect, Engineered Plagues, all day. Jam this all day, Maybe even 3 Draw News Crusade in the sideboard to help you out. Goblin King is an additional Draw News Crusade, basically. So I really, really, really enjoy this deck. I hated losing Engineered Plague. going to be honest with everyone. I really did. Knowing that E-Plague is a very well-known sideboard piece and then just getting hosed by it hurt my soul. So I went back to green red goblins and I tossed around the main board a little bit. So this is what I'm currently on. This is what the list I have in paper currently. It is 24 lands. I still only have one forest, but I added a Mossfire Valley on that same 3-2 split between Port and Wasteland. I believe I'm either 2-3 or 3-2 currently with this deck. I can't 100% remember, but I'm not looking amazing, to be honest. I have gone to 4 Fanatic. 2 Prospector has been something I've been toying with, and it feels very good in this deck. I also own 2 Foil Prospectors, so I thought I may as well try it. Down to 3 Pile Drivers. I heard them talking about this on the podcast, that Pile Driver just doesn't have a great 2 replacement in the format. Pile Driver for me is painful. Pro Blue just like doesn't matter. I got like Submerged or whatever versus Stasis one game and was like, well, this is completely unnecessary. So Pile Driver feels just bad. So I've been down to 3 Pile Drivers. Yes, Pile Driver helps with your high rolls. When you get it out, I played Beefcake and ended up like turn 3 or turn 4. I had like, it was something stupid. It was like 3 Pile Drivers and like multiple creatures attacking against Beefcake. Like I played 3 Pile Drivers on a single turn because I had a Goblin War Chief out. And my opponent was like, are you kidding me? Which I get. I really, really, really get that. I have 1 Tinkerer main. I want to respect Naut still. I am down to 2 Naturalize. That's what I cut one of these for a land. And I actually feel okay with that. You know, if, you know, post board, we have tons of ways to deal with artifacts or enchantments, primarily enchantments. Artifacts were less good on, but we do have 3 ways to hit artifacts in this main board. 1 Goblin King has stayed. I like Goblin King a lot. I think it's a decent mirror breaker, and it also gives you a lot of game against Sly if they tap down. Sharpshooter feels good. 4 Matrons. So yeah, I really just toned back a little bit on the Pile Driver count, but I've stuck to 34 creatures. I went through the list of goblins, and I just do not see any better goblins. I cut out Pyromancer. I just did not love Pyromancer as a card. I get the versatility of it, and it is a good, like, boom, here's kind of an overrun effect. But I don't like the way that it fit into the deck. I didn't like having to cut anything for it. So, and it brought my curve up a bit more. Like, even getting ringleaders off sometimes is tough. So, overall, the main board is starting to shape up. The sideboard, I'm at 3 Crypts. In paper, I believe I have a Furnace and 2 Crypts. I want to say, I just don't want to pay for a Furnace on MTGO. 2 Zoran Orbs. This was recommended from a viewer of the initial introduction. This is a great tech against burn. They're super right. They're 100% right. I wanted to play Overloads. I love Overloads. I have foil versions of them, so I always want to play them. But Zoran Orb felt really, really, really good. So I'm more than happy to shove a Zoran Orb into this sideboard and bring it in against burn. Feels great. I have 2 Pyroblast, 2 Reb still. Leaving that stock, those cards are very good. I'm back up to 3 Pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis feels great still. It hits a lot of different things. It doesn't hit everything. It hits some things, but not everything. I am in between on it. I just want to be very honest that I am thinking about, like, what is better than Pyrokinesis? Do I want like a Sulfuric Vortex? Because we just can't beat life gain. And when Angel resolves against us, and I have no way to kill it, Pyrokinesis doesn't kill it because it's a 4/5. So we really got to be careful against Angel. But Pyrokinesis isn't bad, and Tranquil Domain's great. This is like, I'd play 18 of these or 15 of these in the sideboard. I hate Engineer Plague as a Goblins player, so I like Tranquil Domain. Sick art, by the way. Like, really, really, really underrated art. Mirage is a really, really cool set. I wish we would explore that plane more. I know it's based off a lot of, like, African imagery and stuff, and, like, that art is sick. So, like, a lot of the art, like Peacekeeper, I think, from that set, just rad. So, sorry, I need to go on a little side tangent. I love Tranquil Domain a lot. But this deck has felt I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but honestly, Goblins has felt terrible in my hands. It feels like I can't play Magic. I just don't know how to do it, and like it confuses me too, because like I know this deck is good. People post results all the time with this deck, top fours, top eights. Like this is a consistently good deck, and it feels like I just can't play it. It's so frustrating because like I really, really, really want to play this deck and be successful with it, but it just doesn't feel right in my hands, and it's almost like heartbreaking in a sense, because it's like I love playing tribal, I love these type of decks, but this one just feels so meh in my hands, sadly. So I have a lot of love-hate with this right now. I will slide over here. This is our stats. We played 25 total matches just this week. Would have been more, probably would have been sitting around the 35 range, 37 range. If I would have had the full weekend, you know, sadly I didn't, but that's okay. I'm not mad about it. I'm glad my wife is safe and sound. Let me delete these real quick, actually. Delete that and delete that. So opponent counts here. We played against the Rock 4 times. We played against Sly twice and Madness 4 times. We were split 14 on the play, 11 on the draw. Our overall match record is 11 and 14. We are 2-2 versus the Rock, 4-0 versus Madness. Sly, I believe we were actually 1-1. I did take a match against Sly. There is some ways to beat that. That matchup feels insanely play draw dependent. I did play quite a few matches against Fantasy Gators as a whole. Just not many in this combo. I did play against the Lauren combo and we got cooked by it. We feel pretty bad against combo. So not enough data yet to really like definitively make a list. But this it's felt tough. Like a lot of stuff feels like a coin toss and it shouldn't, but regardless, it doesn't feel amazing. I think I still need some time. I just want to be very transparent with everyone. I said it's going to be a 6-month testing. I don't know if I can make it 6 months. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, this deck is legitimately like kind of heartbreaking. It sounds stupid when I say it, you know, but this deck is really hard for me to play. I can't figure it out. Like, I will take any advice. Please put it in the comments. If you're like, hey, and I know I don't have any like video for like matches, and I'm going to start recording them soon, or at least giving you one a week. I just like, I literally was just jamming games all week while my wife was away on her trips, just keep jamming, trying to get data points and trying to understand lines and get reps. So I do want to start recording here starting this week too. I will be. But yeah, just has felt really tough. But the sideboard guides are starting to come along. I've had some of the top meta sideboards. So like Sly, Naut, you know, the Mirror, Terrageddon spelled incorrectly, Dead Gael, Replenish, stuff like that. I've begun to tech out the sideboard. I do want to just have general like Wooburg colors of like what should be in there when I'm looking to sideboard in general, if I come across some like of like the random, you know, more rogue decks. But I've begun to really zero in on this and try and figure out where I want to be at. So, you know, if you want to take a look at this as it is right now and just say like, hey, I took a screenshot and did my looking, and this is what you should be deciding in here versus there or whatever, just let me know. Because honestly, everyone, I feel a little bit disheartened and just like kind of lost, like I'm shooting blanks in the dark or something. So I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I do want to be honest with everyone. Like, this is a process of me week to week trying to test a deck that so far has felt really bad in my hands, sadly. Like, it sucks. It actually makes me legitimately sad. So I hope everybody has enjoyed this as a whole. I do want to get better at collecting data, visualizing data. It's something I got to work on. I run a league for my friends, so a lot of my data management time and like reporting visuals and stuff like that goes towards managing their league and showing them stats and whatnot. So I do want to tune it up and get it set up. I'm also not very good with Google Sheets, much more of an Excel head, but Sheets just works better for stuff like this. So I hope everybody's enjoyed. I hope you're excited to at least see the progress, or at least see how this goes for me, whether you want to see someone suffer or maybe even triumph. Please leave me any tips you have down below. I would really, really, really appreciate that. I read all my comments. I really, really need help on this one. So I hope everybody's enjoyed. This has been the Goblin Guide project, or Project Goblin Guide, N32 Brew. So until next time, cheers.